Welcome to, well, that old queen. A candid and adult take on queer life quandaries at a certain age. So please listen at your own discretion. Presented by Bernie and Tommy, the views here are purely those of the content providers and in no way reflect those of any service you may hear this program on. Now, please let your ears be upstanding for the old queens.
Hello, Tommy.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm definitely up and down, a bit down these last couple of days. Today, I've hardly done anything. I've had a long bath. I did have a rehearsal this morning on Zoom, but yeah.
I think this whole period is a little bit like that, isn't it? There are days where I'm definitely feeling okay and others when I'm feeling really not. But I mean, yeah. It's warming because this week we've been told that we're past the peak and they're going to have a plan to get us out of lockdown next week, which will be amazing.
I can't imagine what that's going to feel like.
I don't know. Maybe we're going to have to wear full body suits or something so we can go clubbing again. Like I
don't think clubbing is their first priority.
Well, it's my first priority, so I might be writing to my MP about that. Anyway, we've got a special guest coming on later, haven't we, Tommy? Who's our special guest?
Yeah, we've got the lovely David Mills coming on, who's a comedian, actor, general funny person.
Yeah, he's gonna run rings around us, I bet. So, but that's going to be fun. And we're going to be playing Kink My Bluff in a second on Instagram Live through Interstellar Link Up again. So that'll be fun. And got Queens of Agony questions. And what is that really old queen this week?
Well, I thought I'd do something different this week because I've chosen a bookshop. It's the Circus of Books. It was a bookshop that only closed in 2019, but it opened its doors in 1982 in West Hollywood. So I thought, because it seemingly is just a bookshop, it's actually so much kind of recent gay history can be aligned to this bookshop that I felt like it was an interesting intervention into our feature.
Yeah, definitely. I watched the documentary today, so I'm fully clued up on it because it's on Netflix.
So the Netflix documentary has just come out, and it was made by the daughter of the owners of the bookshop. So she grew up with her parents running this gay porn bookshop.
Yeah, Karen and Barry.
Yes, the parents, the Karen and Barry. Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. Yeah, I'm going to get my teeth into that. But shall we do Kink My Bluff first?
Okay. So I'm going to get on Instagram.
Yeah, me too. See if this works. I'm in. Do you want me to add you as a guest?
You're having trouble loading this. Please try again later.
This is going really well. Hey, Tommy.
Hi, Benny.
Oh, God, it's going to be infinity and beyond. You ready to play Kink My Bluff?
I am. I'm more than ready.
Okay. Well, here we go. Right, so we're going to play Kink My Bluff. Hello to everyone who's joined us on Instagram Live. And so this is when Tommy and I give each other cryptic words, and we've got to decide whether it's a kink or not a kink. So it's a kink or it's a bluff kink. So shall I go first, Tommy?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Ease me in gently.
My first word is meter Tommy, and it's got nothing to do with you. Or maybe it has. Meter Tommy. Okay.
So just to tell you, the words are back to front on Instagram.
Oh, are they? Meter Tommy. That's upside down.
So are you going to give me a definition?
I'm going to give you a definition. So, meter Tommy is an incision or tearing done to enlarge the urethra. The practice often evolves from masturbating with an instrument in said urethra. Sounding.
Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, urethra Franklin, yeah. Or is it a guy, usually called Tommy, who delivers an order from the butcher? Meter Tommy.
I think it's urethra enlarger.
It is a kink. Back to front.
So I was right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And some get so large, they can fit another guy's penis inside it. I mean, it all feels very painful to me.
How about that? That's weird.
I know.
Do you remember back in the bad old days when they used to have to, when you were doing your STD test and they used to stick a sort of metal object down there?
Well, yeah, or a swab, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
so great.
Back in the 1800s. What have you got for me?
So this one is a spectrophilia. A spectrophilia.
Okay.
Is it a human and ghost lovemaking together? The ghost usually comes in a lady form.
Okay.
Or is it a cinema experience, which a bit like, well, it predates the 3D vision, but it was aiming to create the same kind of effect of a kind of more involved experience with the film.
I think that's a bluff. I think it is. I think it's the cinema.
Incorrect. It's a kink.
Okay. Satsumi. So sumi. Sorry. So sumi is the art of wrapping sexual organs in silk and ribbons. So let me take you back to the 8th century Japan, as Arthur Marshall might say, and call my bluff. And where they used to wrap up sexual organs in silk and ribbons in complex, intricate designs, and upon entering the bedchamber, they would offer them as gifts to their lovers, and they would enjoy the physical sensation of it being unwrapped. Or
I think it's a lovely idea.
Or, also from the Orient, is it a very small tsunami? Kink or bluff?
Can you say the word for us again?
Satsumi.
Satsumi. Satsumi, Satsumi, what can you do me? I think it's a small tsunami.
No, it's a kink. It's the art of kokigami. Or I probably pronounced all of those words wrong. Yeah, but I mean, I quite like that idea. Wrapping it up as a gift for your lover.
I know, I'm going to try that when we get out.
What's the next one?
Yeah, so this is the problem that I have with this game, is how to pronounce everything. So this one is Sousvid.
Suitsvid.
Yeah.
Okay.
So SOUS/vid. VIDE.
Okay.
Yeah. So is it a plastic bag in which you cook something, but for a longer time in hot water, usually it takes...
Like a Vesta curry?
Like it could be a joint of meat, perhaps.
Okay, joint of meat or a boil in the bag curry. Okay, great.
Yeah. Or is it B, someone talking to you in a foreign language that you don't understand when love making?
Ooh. I think it's someone talking to me in a foreign language that I don't understand while lovemaking.
It's a nice idea, but you're wrong.
I'm so crap at this game. It's a bluff. God damn it. Do you want one more?
Yeah, go on then.
One more. Okay. Right. The word is Pollinia. Is it? Pollinia. So is it a hole in the ice or a stretch of open water surrounded by ice, particularly in the Antarctic or Arctic? Or is it someone who only likes sex with more than one person? So they can only have sex if there's more than one person involved, other than them, obviously. So multiple people involved.
I'm going to go for multiple partners every time.
Well, me too, usually, but I'm afraid it's a bluff.
Okay.
We're so shit at this.
Did that badly though? Did I?
I think you definitely got one right. I think I've just got all of them wrong. So far, you're definitely beating me at this game. Anyway, thank you for joining us on Instagram Live for Kink My Bluff. We'll see you next time. This will be out a week on Sunday, so tune in to the rest of the show. Right. Back in this room there. Anyway, what that really, old Queen?
So I was just talking about the circle of books. So as you said, there's a Netflix documentary about it that's made by the daughter of the parents that owned the bookshop. And it was a bookshop that was opened in 1982. And they came from a place really where they were sort of running out. It felt like they were kind of running out of ideas to make money, the parents. They answered an ad about like delivering publications from their station wagon, which was adult gay material, and then slowly got into like the distribution of that by buying a bookshop, and it was a kind of mainstay of the kind of gay culture in West Hollywood in the time. You'd walk through the door and there would be like, what's those books? The San Francisco storybooks.
Oh, Tales of the City.
Tales of the City, yeah. Those kind of materials that are kind of like, but then you'd walk into the adult section and then you'd find books like, or videos like Backdoor Buddies, or School of Hard Cocks.
I went to that school.
But it was, but what it became really was a very safe space for gay men to go to when it was very dangerous to be gay. So we're talking about the early 1980s. This is when the Reagan administration was in power, and it was very anti-gay in America at that time, partly mainly because of the AIDS crisis. So in one essence, it was just a bookshop, but it kind of has so much to do with gay identity, the AIDS crisis, and the First Amendment, which was about kind of like freedom of speech, essentially. And so the family that ran it also then became producers of gay porn. So they worked quite closely with Jeff Stryker.
I know. Who was possibly one of the first, I think that was one of the first porn films that I watched, had Jeff Stryker in it.
Yeah, so most people like of a certain age know of Jeff Stryker, and there's this story about the parents being invited to a country dancing session with Jeff Stryker, where he used to sing his song, "Pop it in the pooper and let me hear you squeal."
And on that note, David Mills has joined us.
Hi.
Hi, David.
Supposed to join now?
You're welcome to. We should acknowledge you're here.
We're just talking about the film that's just been released on on Netflix, The Circle of Books.
Oh, yes, I saw it. Yeah.
And it is like this amazing film because you just get this beautiful insight into this like Jewish family, really, the mother is the particularly strong, dominant character.
Yeah, definitely.
In the film, and like some of my friends who have come from that kind of background talk about their Jewish parents having this kind of sensibility around them that is about like kind of not thinking that they will be able to succeed in anything in that way, but coming from a real place of like genuine love, that they wouldn't be disappointed by that. And so Rachel, who makes the documentary, is doing it really, and the mother is saying, I just don't think anyone's going to be interested in this. And there was a bit of shame really that she was attached to like they led a very heteronormative life, but they were running this gay porn bookshop, and the children were told that I don't think they were told not to tell anyone, but they were told not to sort of brag about it in that way, and they were told to go into the shop and look on the floor, and they kind of knew what was going on, but they didn't really know what was going on until the daughter goes to college, to art school, and and she says, oh well, I don't know if you're interested, but my parents run the Circle of Books, and everyone's, oh my god, that's the most amazing bookshop and so like prolific in kind of gay identity and history.
Yeah, I mean, there's such interesting characters that are running or used to run that shop, because one of them was a journalist, the other one was working on special effects for Star Trek. But what I found interesting was what one of the customers said at the time, that during the 70s, they never got to see people being openly out having sex with each other. And so porn was really important for them because society deemed them as freaks. And there were these films of people having sex, like they wanted to have sex. And I've never thought of porn like that before, and how kind of important it is as part of gay culture in that way. I don't know if you guys have.
No, I haven't like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think we forget regularly how central porn and sex is to gay culture. To me, that's sort of the basis. And I think that the sexual spaces and porn and all that, that's the stuff that when that disappears, gay culture disappears. Yes, the community and all the rest of it, but to me, that's the secondary stuff. The stuff that really brings people together is sex.
Well, yes.
I mean, that's what sex is, bringing people together, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's super, super important. And I know that for me, those kinds of porn shops were the things where I saw my first gay, there were others. It wasn't, when I was growing up, at least, it wasn't, I knew of Circus of Books, but that was a little further out in LA, further west.
Where did you grow up? Where were you growing up?
I was mostly growing up, I grew up in Pennsylvania, but when I was 18 in 87, we moved to Southern California, outside of LA, more in the desert, in a town called Claremont. And there were 3 bookstores much like Circus of Books in driving distance from me, 10 minutes from me. And I used to cruise those places, and see men. And the Circus of Books didn't have it, but what was quite typical of those books is they had booths, little video booths. And you could go and watch videos in the store.
And were you charged to look at those videos?
Yeah, there was like a machine, and you'd have to pay the $1 bill and pay the $1 bill and pay the $1 bill, and then it would run, for 5 minutes or whatever it was. I mean, I can't tell you how much money I spent there over the years. But I mean, that was, some of my earliest sexual experiences happened in those places.
I mean, in a heteronormative world, gay porn and like shops like that are your first outlet, aren't they?
Yeah, sure.
And
not just your first.
No, obviously, yeah, and second and third and fourth and fifth.
Yeah, and for a lot of particularly closeted guys, those were their only sexual outlet. There was one near my university when I went to college in San Diego, and there was a chain of them called F Street, because the original one was on a street called F Street, and I always thought that was such a cool name for a dirty bookstore, F Street. But there was one up by the military base. And I used to drive, it was 24 hours. And I'd find myself getting up at, 2 a.m. and driving out to this dirty bookstore and cruising the booze in the back, and there were all sorts of military guys that would end up. I mean, it was wild.
But when you say cruising, were you cruising books or were you cruising?
No, there were booths. There was like a separate section. And it was like almost like a maze of booths that were semi-closed. They were built in a way that they were semi-private. So, you could easily join someone in a booth or watch, or all sorts of stuff would go on.
Right, so almost like a dark room kind of situation.
Yeah.
Because they did mention that in Circus of Books, didn't they? There was an attic upstairs where sometimes people would go and have sex. The whole documentary was quite nostalgic for me, because when I was making micro-budget queer movies in the noughties, those types of shops were the only places that would stock the DVDs. So right. I would wander around to see if my films are there. And in one of them, I played a sex shop owner. So it just kind of brought back lots of nostalgia of making those films and then going to see if they're actually in the shops or not.
I mean, it's amazing. I think there may be 1 or 2 of those still left in Soho. In the old days in Soho, well, not that long ago, 5-10 years ago, there was a whole row of those CD bookstores selling DVDs and all that. But I don't know.
Soho's just changed in like 5 years.
What's that?
Soho's just changed in 5 years.
Yes, I think so. I think all that's gone.
But also with online porn as well, it's kind of made all of that stuff redundant, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why it tells an interesting story, The Circle of Books, because its demise is around like Grindr or Scruff or those things as well, really, and the ease of making connections. But before, at the beginning, like they accidentally fall into really supporting all the gay men around them. So, all of the HIV and AIDS stuff, their staff, they paid in cash because it would interfere with their health benefits. They just became a kind of haven for people.
Yeah. I mean, it was also in West Hollywood. So, I mean, it was part of a gay community. That's in LA traditionally where the LA bars are, or the gay bars. So it was, I think they were in a real gay neighborhood, in a gay world.
I have to say, I mean, I look through rose-tinted spectacles at this, but there's a film called Cruising, and the actual documentary of Circus of Books reminded me of that. And seeing all that old footage from the 70s and 80s and all those gay men out there on the street, I really just wanted to be there and kind of experience it and drink it all up. I know it's probably very nostalgic to say that, because obviously that was the height of the AIDS crisis and HIV and everything. But,
well, I mean, it was a lot of that footage came from before the AIDS crisis, didn't it? I mean, that was the moment that you see a lot of that stuff. Certainly the San Francisco images, you see a lot of images of sort of the Castro and just packed, almost like a big festival, some gay pride or something. The whole place is just rammed full of gay guys. And that would have been, surely that happened in the 80s too, but in the 70s, in the late 70s and early 80s, before the HIV crisis struck, a lot of that footage came from. And that does feel like some sort of fabled fantasy moment, or like the Piers and, or who knows, it would have been amazing.
Yeah. Like I say, it's probably rose-colored spectacles looking back on it, but it just seems like they're having so much fun. And because it was
pretty good to me.
Yeah. And because it was still not the thing to be in society, it all feels a bit naughty as well. So it just makes it even more fun.
And also the fashion was so outrageous.
Yeah, on the short shorts. I love the short
shorts and the big belt buckles and all that crazy, leather. And I mean, it's hilarious.
I'm disappointed that you're wearing clothes, because on our messaging on Instagram, you said that you were debating whether to just even wear a robe.
Well, I wanted to put it together for you too, a little bit of a...
It seems actually like you've got quite a few layers on.
I do, actually. I have a T-shirt and another shirt, a collared shirt over it. It's actually, I find it quite chilly, actually.
Yeah, it has gone.
So I'm a little bit layered up.
I mean, Tommy and I usually record naked, but we've had to put some clothes on today as well.
Yeah, it's a shame. We had such nice weather there for a moment, didn't we?
Yeah. Anyway, Tommy, did you have anything else to say about Circus of Books?
No, that was my,
Is that it? Really. Okay, well, David, sit right there.
I recommend you listen to it you watch it on Netflix.
Yes, I'm going to watch it again because I absolutely loved it. David, stay right there. We'll be back with you in a bit. We're going to have a little break now, and we'll be back after this. So we're back. We have the lovely David Mills with us.
Hello.
Tommy, would you like to introduce David Mills and his little repertoire of stuff that he does?
Well, I'll try my best. David Mills I'm delighted that he's joined us this evening for the podcast. So David works as a stand-up comedian, and also, you've done some films as well. I guess that was part of my first question, really, is like, which came first, and how did you transition into film work, or was that always something that you were doing anyway?
Which came first? Well, I mean, it's funny. I started having success in stand-up before I had success as an actor, but I studied acting and I always wanted to act. And at a certain moment, I made a decision, because I feel like in acting, I haven't been able to progress beyond the point of sitting by the phone. I find it very hard to be proactive in acting. And it just got so frustrating, and I just wanted to be on stage. I love an audience. So I just figured stand-up comedy was a way I could be on stage. And you can be on stage, 7 nights a week as a stand-up. I mean, in London and in most towns, really, especially if you're not fussed with being paid. So you can do the open mic circuit, and you can work regularly as a stand-up performer. So I was on stage all the time. And then I began to have some success in stand-up. And then from that, I got proper acting work in films and TV. That's how it's happened.
And I follow you on Instagram, and it seems like you're constantly back and forth from America. How does that work for you?
Well, my family is all on the West Coast. My dad and my brother are in Sacramento, and I have family in Portland, Oregon. I have a big family, lots of siblings. So there are a chunk of us in Portland, Oregon, and then there are a chunk of us in sort of central and northern California. And so I like to go back regularly if I can, and do stand-up in LA and San Diego, and see my family. And then also there's a venue in New York that I've built a relationship with over the years called Pangea. And it's a little bit of a queer bohemian haven, almost like if you remember Bistro Tech in the 2000s in East London, kind of a cool, experimental,
but very intimate.
Very intimate, yeah. Just 60 seats, and has a great following, and a lot of great artists perform there. A lot of emerging artists, some old established artists like Penny Arcade and Joey Arias, but then also a lot of the new kids coming through. And it's sort of the step before, or an alternative to, I should say, an alternative to Joe's Pub, which is a very well-established venue associated with the public theater. So I've been embraced there, and I've also embraced them. And so I go back there about at least twice a year to do shows. And so I've begun to build an audience in New York as well. I like going back to the US. I like being here, and I like going back. If I can do both, I'm really happy.
And you're in King's Cross right now.
Yeah.
And so you were in the film about Florence Welsh.
Florence Foster Jenkins.
Florence Welsh.
Florence Welsh. I'd love to be in a film about Florence Welsh.
Sorry.
That's a film I'd love to be in. That would be great.
They haven't put that out yet.
They will. They will.
Yeah, well, yeah. And
I'd be thrilled.
How much did you know about her story before you? So this is the film with Meryl Streep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for those listeners who might not know, she was a singer in the during World War I in New York City, and she was a society matron and was a big supporter of the arts, the symphony and the Philharmonic and the opera and the chamber orchestra, all in New York. She was a big, wealthy donor. But she also fancied herself an opera singer herself, but she was terrible. She was a terrible singer. But because she was such an important funder for all these institutions, when she put on a concert, all the great and the good from the music world were obliged to go to her shows and sort of compliment her and say, "Oh, that was wonderful, Florence," even though it was abysmal. So this was a true story. And she even made recordings, and built a bit of a reputation.
But do you think there was an element of like people going because it was so bad that it was good?
Well, this is how I found out about her, because when I was living in San Francisco in the 90s, an older friend of mine, who's still a dear friend of mine today, this older gay guy, introduced me to her and had one of her recordings and played it and said, "You've got to listen to this. You'll love it. It's terrible. We love it." And we would play the record and get completely pissed and just, laugh ourselves silly. And I really believe that it was gay men who saw the irony in it that kept her theme alive through the decades. And what was great about the film is I got to play that gay guy in the film who goes to see her and loves her because she's terrible.
Amazing.
So I felt so lucky, and I felt like this is the part made for me. It was very me. So I was thrilled.
Well, us gays love a strong woman, particularly if they can't sing.
Yeah, absolutely. We celebrate them.
Yes. Why wouldn't you? So you've also done Urban Myths, and you were in Patrick Melrose. But
Yes.
what I'd like to talk to you about is your YouTube channel, which I had a little look at, and you've got some relatively recent sketches, which called That Guy, which reminds me of the party sketches from the Two Ronnies, which I used to love.
I don't know the Two Ronnies. I'll look that up.
Two Ronnies were like a massive comedy duo.
But maybe David won't get that reference because it's very 1970s British.
It is.
I know the name, the Two Ronnies, but I just don't know. I mean, I know they were comic actors, but I don't know that sketch. Was that a famous sketch?
Well, yes. So practically every single episode, and I recently watched the beginning of their series, and they used to start off with like a spoof news kind of reel, and then at the end of it they'd go, "And now let's have a look at the state of the party." And then it would go into a party sketch. So it would be a comedy sketch at a party. And then that carried on throughout the many years which they did their series. So when I watched your That Guy, because obviously it's your character being at a party, it just reminded me of that. But tell us, how did That Guy come about?
Well, That Guy is really stems from my stand-up act.
Right.
All those, basically it's this weird, not that weird, but sort of like that guy at a party, that guy who sort of, kind of comes into a conversation, seems like a normal guy, but then all of a sudden goes on some sort of little rant, and you think, wait a minute, who is this guy? Like, I don't even know why I'm talking to him. That guy, And I kind of do those rants in my stand-up. Those are part of my routine. And I had done one of them at a kind of a showcase that my agent was having, and for like industry people. And one producer from a production company came to me, and he's a young gay guy. And he came to me and he said, listen, I would love to film your rant about gender pronouns. Would you be willing to do that? He said, I need, for my CV, to develop some work separate from the production company I work for. So my sort of CV as a producer, I produced this. And I would love to film your gender pronoun monologue. And I said, oh, well, I've always thought it would be great, like set in a party, and I could write the script as more of a dialogue with other people. And he said, oh, yeah, let's do that. And I said, well, and by the way, since we're filming, I have these 2 other little rants. And since we're just going to be filming, why don't we just film all 3 of them? And he was like, well, okay, maybe we can, maybe we can't. And I said, all right, I'll write them up, and then you read them and you tell me what you think. So I wrote them up, and he said, yeah, let's do it. So because he was connected already to a production company, he had someone in mind for the director of photography and the hair and makeup and all the casting and the sound. And so, I mean, it looks super professional as he works in that world. Yeah. And he was able to call in a bunch of favors, get it filmed professionally and well done. So, yeah, so that's how it happened.
Great.
And the gender pronouns kind of ranty thing is so funny, and it feels really well crafted and kind of just like snappy.
Yeah, that's what reminded me of the 2 Ronnies as well, because they used to love that wordplay as well. So when I saw that one, and it's at a party, I'm like, my God, this is like a modern day 2 Ronnies sketch.
I'm going to have to look that up. Those skits.
And I hope that it's taken in really good humour. But I wonder if there was any backlash to that.
I've never had any backlash. I think that I've had. I take that back. So mostly I had binary people approach me afterwards and say that was hilarious. And the only time we're ever included in routines is really in this kind as like a punching bag. But at least the people that have approached me have said, there's a sense of humor about it, but it's not a malicious. There's nothing malicious about it. It's just kind of exposing the mania around the conversation more than anything.
That's exactly how I felt about it. Like it felt quite gentle in that way.
Yeah. I think it is like a gentle satire in a way, but. The place where I got the most negative response was at a queer event. And, they didn't like me from the start when I came out, because I was much more kind of conventional stand-up than the rest of the show. And the rest of the show was very experimental. And then when I start, and I didn't lead my set with that material. But they didn't love my material to begin with. And then when I started that some people started shouting out things. So I was not popular that evening.
Yeah, I mean,
but I always find it hard to perform for the queers, because queers can be on the defensive, and wherever I'm performing, I want to be challenging my audience, pushing them a little bit, because I, as an audience member, I never like to feel like I'm being kind of patronized, and just kind of, I want to be challenged as an audience member, and I as a performer, I challenge my audiences and not just be like a booster. I feel like that to me isn't very interesting. So sometimes people react to that.
So what else have you got in the pipeline, David? Have you been working on anything during lockdown?
Well, I filmed do you know this? You might know the name D.B. Cooper. Do you know that name? D.B. Cooper?
No.
He was a hijacker in the U.S. in the 70s, and he early when hijacking went through a little bit of a phase in the 70s in the U.S. There was a lot of not a lot, but there was a spate, and he hijacked a plane from Portland, Oregon to Seattle. He had a bomb in a briefcase, and he made them land in Seattle, and then mostly let go of the audience or the passengers, but he kept the crew.
I love the
And he
fact
made
that you call them audiences.
right? Then he made the authorities bring 2 or 3 parachutes and like $200,000. This is the 1970s. I guess $200,000 was lots and lots of money. I mean, I would love it now, but nonetheless, you're not going to hijack a plane for $200,000. But nonetheless, he did. And then he made them take off again, going towards Mexico. But somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, he jumped out with the parachute, and they never found him. So the director who made Louis Theroux's Scientology movie, which you may remember, made a film and a documentary where he found the last remaining people who claimed Cooper was their husband, uncle, father, whatever. They're still out there. There's still a few people who claim that D.B. Cooper, they have the story behind D.B. Cooper. And he tracked each of them down and interviewed them and turned it into a film. And then I played D.B. Cooper in all the reenactments. And that's a BBC HBO thing. And that's coming out sometime this year, maybe in the autumn, I think.
Oh, amazing.
So that was a fun project.
And is there some kind of queer reading into that?
There's no queer reading in it. If do you know Twin Peaks?
Yeah.
Did you watch Twin Peaks? What was his name? The detective agent
Cooper.
Yeah, he was named after D.B. Cooper because that's the part of the country where it all went down and where he disappeared in that kind of heavily wooded, mountainous region.
Oh, amazing. Did you end up in the Red Lodge?
No, I didn't. That'd be fabulous, though. So that project is coming out, and at the moment, I'm scribbling away, writing things, and I have a podcast that I do regularly called Focus People. That continues, where I interview different interesting people.
And
that's what I'm doing in the long term.
Timberlina,
and I'm working with Timberlina and Johnny Wu.
Yeah, who we've had on the show.
Yes.
Timberlina sends her love and also said that you copy everything that she does.
I have. She's absolutely. She's Timberlina is the greatest. What's so great about her is she's so inadvertently funny, I think I'm someone who, really kind of writes all my material and rehearses it and polishes it and it feels very scripted.
Yeah,
I think she's just naturally kind of, it just comes out. She doesn't even know half the time the brilliance that she brings. She's the greatest. Yeah. And Johnny Wu, of course, is one of the pioneers of, queer cabaret in this country.
And this is the Dallas reboot, which Bernie loves all of the Dallas, the Dynasty, all of that jazz.
Are you a big Dallas fan, Bernie?
I'm a massive Dallas fan.
I love Dallas so much. I can't.
And do you play JR?
I play JR.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Because I saw you play this, I think, many years ago in this weird space. I don't know where we were, but it felt like deepest, darkest East London somewhere.
Yes.
Almost like a school or something.
I remember that venue. Yeah. In Haggerston is where it was. And, this is the revival no one was asking for. And we're bringing it back nonetheless. And we had such fun doing it 10 years ago that we thought, well, why not do it again? So, for an audience that doesn't even know what Dallas is, frankly. But I'm convinced that Dallas and particularly Larry Hagman was just about one of the best actors of his generation. If you go online and watch on YouTube the best JR bits, he is majestic. He's so good. He's
phenomenal.
So funny. And he's phenomenal. He's really, really good.
Well, they did bring it back, didn't they? And obviously he died during the filming of the revival.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't the same without him because the whole series kind of centered around him and that character.
It's like a linchpin.
Yeah, deliciously evil and, like a complete psychopath. But I absolutely loved him. And as an actor, he was amazing.
He was amazing. And what a lucky actor to have that, to be remembered for that. What a great part. And that went on for decades, at least a decade.
Yeah.
And had fans around the world. I listened to a podcast about it, and the guy who was doing the podcast is from Dallas, and he said he traveled the world, and any time he could be in a taxi cab in Vietnam, he could be in a gondola in Venice, and if they ask where he's from and he says Dallas, they immediately start with the theme song. Everyone knows it around the world.
Totally.
Not bad.
David, are you going to stay with us, because we do a thing at the end of our show called Queens of Agony, where
I'd love to. Yeah,
we answer some questions from our listeners who have some problems. So yeah, if you can stay with us, we'll do Queens of Agony next.
I would love that.
Okay,
Yeah, great.
I'm going to do a big gong. Right. You ready for this, guys?
Okay, let's do it.
Dear old Queens, I'm 45 and finding it difficult to meet guys willing to date or commit or even get to know. I recently deleted Grindr and Scruff. I should have done it sooner. I was over the meaningless introductions, the ones that start off with just a pic or just one word, with no context. And with the current pandemic, there's nothing stopping them still asking for a hookup. I got to the stage where those apps are not working for me or appealing to what I was looking for. It took a long time before I realized they were merely just hookup apps. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I've joined local gay groups in my town, but it turned out to be a group of sleazy men. What I thought was a local group for locals to go somewhere where they felt accepted and comfortable turned out to be the total opposite of what I hoped for. Learning from mistakes is part of life. We learn and grow from them, but it seems I'm finding it difficult to meet like-minded men. What am I doing wrong? Wow, what do we think about that? It's definitely difficult as you get a bit older, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only 45 though.
This is true.
I was a bit confused about how is he managing to go to the community groups in lockdown?
I think this was obviously before lockdown, unless he's joining Zoom meetings, which can also be problematic.
I'm a little bit confused by what kind of community group turned out to be sleazy. Like, what specifically was that? Was that like a naked cooking group? Well, surprise, surprise. It's going to be a bit sleazy. You know what I mean? I think maybe it's about your choice of community group.
Kinks are us social.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe he was going to Circus of Books. Who knows? Before they shut down. I don't know. I mean, he seems a bit uptight about the apps. I mean, the apps are the apps. I mean, you can complain about them as much as you like or embrace them for what they are. But I know people that have met people on apps, and I think it's maybe what you're looking for and how you go about it, really.
I found a struggle to actually get to the nub of what the problem was. I didn't really get it.
I think
you can't meet people.
He wants to meet someone. He obviously wants to meet someone for a relationship, I think, because he doesn't want just a hookup. But then the thing is if you put too much onus on all of that stuff, just a hookup could turn out to be a relationship.
That's exactly right.
If you're being a bit too uptight about the whole thing, then, it's never going to work out for you, is it?
Is that from your experience, David?
I think that's right. I think you've got to be much more open-ended about the whole thing, which in every sense. I think you've just got to let go of, and it's hard, I think, but I think you've got to let go of your ambition to meet someone and settle down. You've got to come to terms with the fact that may never happen, and you've got to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Not to meet someone, but because you get into engaging. You want to engage.
Yeah.
If you keep it at that level and just let grow what may grow, then you may find yourself in a relationship. But if you go in with the intention, I'm going to find a relationship, I don't think you're going to find it.
Yeah, exactly. I think anyone that has that intention is going to fall foul of it. They're going to be disappointed.
I think that's right.
Spend the next 2 weeks just saying to yourself, it's never going to happen, and then it possibly might.
No, not. I don't think it's never going to happen. I just think put it out of your mind, no, from your decision making, and just make the decision making. I'm just going to engage. I'm out to engage with people, and the more engagement you do, the more opportunities emerge. And just keep engaging. Just keep engaging.
Also, if he doesn't like these community social groups, start one up, which he does. That's like.
A good idea.
You know,
yeah,
I've done that before. I still didn't meet my my soulmate through it, but I had a lot of good times for 7 years while I did it. So yeah,
well, you left it and it carried on, didn't it, Bernard?
It has carried on. Yes, it's not like I'm not like JR. I'm not the linchpin for it.
What was that group?
It was called Members in Bristol, and it was for professional, in inverted commas, gay men. And it took me 7 years to realize I'm not really a professional gay man.
I once sent a text message to my friend saying, I can't see you tonight. I'm out with the professional gays. Because I had a group of friends that were just like brilliant at being gay. Like they were like, yes, they had a nice flat, they had good jobs, and they said the right thing all the time. And they were just brilliant in that way. And they just looked really clean and sharp all the time. And so I said, I can't see you tonight because I'm out with the professional gays. But I sent it to one of the professional gays.
Doesn't that always happen? I wanted to call it Posh Puffs, but apparently that was wrong.
That's good as well.
Maybe that's my next social group. Our listener can have that for free if he wants it. Okay, shall we move on? Next question. Dear old queens, this is an interesting one, actually. I matched with an old friend on Tinder. I'm having a hard time approaching the conversation. I swiped right, thinking that there was no way this person would think of me in that regard. However, we both ended up swiping right. Now I'm wondering if they swiped right to see if I did the same, or if I actually have a real chance with this guy. Times have absolutely changed. You can't just meet someone at a club and read their body language. Today, you have to read micro mannerisms and read between a text. I've always liked this guy, and now I'm wondering if I should shoot my shot or just be a scaredy cat. We both went to separate colleges and have been in different cities for over 10 years. Help, what do I say? So this is like unrequited love from the past coming back to bite you on the bum.
I would just send a message saying like, oh, isn't it fun that we've both swiped right? And just see where that ends, that what happens next.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I mean, it's just a Tinder date, like any Tinder date, really. He also swiped right. So treat it like a Tinder date, you know? I think you just got to assume he did it because he wanted to do it. He wanted to swipe right, so he did. Because he's interested. That's why people swipe right.
Totally.
So go for it.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, they don't know their left from their right, which is my thing.
That sometimes happens by accident, doesn't it?
You can't go in, you know, even if you didn't know them, you could get yourself entrapped like, oh, did they swipe right because they're interested, or did they swipe right because they don't know the left from the right? You know what I mean? Like,
sometimes I super liked someone without realizing that. I thought I was trying to get
but you can't question every time. You've got to just assume on the face of it, it is what it says it is.
You're right.
So I would be excited. He's interested.
Yeah, take it at face value. And also, that person from years ago is probably not the same person. So if you think that he didn't like you then, maybe he's going to like you now. You know. Yeah. I think you do have to take it at face value. There's very wise words from you, David. Yeah.
Let us know what happens. I want to know.
You could write a play about it, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Or at least a comedy sketch.
Yeah.
Sure.
That guy on a Tinder date.
Yes. Well, hopefully we'll see more of that guy. So that guy could end up on a Tinder date. You could see that could happen.
Great. Okay. These ones are shorter ones. So, dear old queens, have you ever reinvented yourself completely? New hair and clothes, etc. Expressed yourself differently? How did it go? And how did you go about it? I'm trying this myself. I've been isolated for a long time and I'll be 40 next year. So I'm hoping this will help. So how do you go about reinventing yourself?
I mean, the only thing that sprung to mind for me was like, I've grown my hair. And so people often associate me with like a blonde quiff. And now I don't have that. I just have like long hair. But obviously that's been a very long transitional process. It's taken me 2 years to grow this hair. And
Amazing.
I do look very different I feel very different in that way.
I think your hair's given you more confidence, a bit like Samson.
I just feel more like, it feels a bit more like who I am inside, because I feel sometimes quite spiritual or like a bit more like ethereal. Yeah. And so to have this kind of sort of twink quiff, not like yours, David.
I don't think you could call mine a twink.
No, because mine was like a shot.
Gray.
Mine was like a shot of blonde and a big quiff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm sort of enjoying that. I'm enjoying that transition, but it's an easier transition because it's taken a long time.
Yeah.
David, have you ever reinvented yourself? I think we all do it multiple times through life, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, I've moved around quite a bit to like new cities where I didn't know anyone. And I feel that has been a hugely, I sort of miss it. It's been a long time since I've done it, and I'm hungry to do it again. You know, for the first 6 months, year, 2 years, you're really alone. You're really, you don't know where you are. You have to meet new people. You have to put yourself out there in new ways. And I think you really grow in that process. And I would say if you really want to reinvent yourself completely, although it doesn't happen overnight, it happens slowly, move somewhere where you don't know anyone. And I mean, that may be our friend's answer from the earlier question as well. If you want to meet new people, literally move to somewhere where you don't know anyone and you'll meet new people.
Yeah.
You will find new things in yourself. You'll experience the world in a different way. And it's a kind of reinvention that I've returned to numerous times.
Yeah.
I feel so rooted in being in Bristol. And I think I don't know if you feel like that, Bernie, as well.
Yeah, but I moved to Bristol from Kent. So I kind of reinvented myself. I think subconsciously I moved to Bristol to come out really in my early 20s because the town in Kent where I was from, I literally felt like I was the only gay in the village. And it was pretty rough as well. And I think you go through a number of reinventions through your life, especially at 40. I mean, they say life begins at 40, but it is a bit of a key age. And I think, yeah, I mean, you can have different outlook on your career, on your personal life. And I mean, if you're just thinking about looks, I think that's not going to be the only thing that's going to change. I mean, your whole outlook on life as you get a bit older and you hit that age is different because you feel more comfortable in who and what you are, and you have to try less, I think. And I mean, I grew a beard, and I mean, I found it difficult to date before the beard, but as soon as the beard came along, it was like bees around a honeypot. So yeah, maybe have some facial furniture.
I think you're right. I would, if I could just say, I think into your age, as you age, that will reinvent things for you. Don't resist it. Lean into it, because you will find, I found at 40 and I found at 50 that, surprising how many people are attracted to that. What seems arbitrary to you doesn't feel arbitrary to them. They really invest it with all sorts of meaning, and that's all mostly positive, or it can be really positive. So lean into it, get into how old you are, if you're 40, if you're 50, if you're 45. And I think you'll find that there are people who really want that, are looking for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's kind of what this whole podcast is about. It's like, you can be older and still be gay. Life does not end at 30. as some people seem to think. Okay, one more question. You ready for this? Dear old queens, how do I get the most out of a bath? I've been wanting to take... Yes.
This is my kind of question.
I know. I thought as soon as I saw this one come in, I was like, Tommy's going to love this. I've been wanting to take more baths, but I don't really know how to enjoy them to the fullest. Any tips that you do or have heard makes a bath more enjoyable?
So, what I was going to say, because I've been having a lot more baths in lockdown than normal, but one of the key things for me is lighting, because in my bathroom I've just got a big fluorescent light.
Yeah, you don't want that.
And like you can see everything that you need to see in normal life, but I would put a candle in and turn the light off.
Or a number of candles. My bathroom's quite dark.
I put one candle in, but leave the door open.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have a little bit of music on?
Yeah, or a podcast. But something... Well, my favourite podcast to listen to in the bath is a podcast called You Must Remember This.
I love that. Yes.
It's a great one. Yeah. It's about kind of Hollywood icons and their sort of... Well, it's quite salacious, isn't it?
Yeah. She's great. I love her, and her funny language is really great with language.
At the end, she says, "This podcast was written by me, produced by me, directed by me, and I love the script. And I'm Katrina Longworth."
Yeah, I love at the top when she goes, "Join us. Won't you?"
Would you?
She's great. I love her. She's partners with someone really big in Hollywood as well. She's got an actor. I forget who. Someone is her partner.
Amazing.
Yeah,
like Jimmy Kimmel or someone like
that's
that.
Me.
I need to edit the credits to this podcast. I'm going to zhuzh them up a bit, I think.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. I would say this. I'm not a huge bath person, but I love a hot tub or a whirlpool. You know what I mean? Which is essentially a big bath.
Yeah.
And what's so great about them is that you can share them with someone else. It's hard to share a bath unless you have a massive bathtub. If you can share a hot tub or a whirlpool. When I lived in San Francisco, there used to be these sort of Japanese style private hot tubs. So you would rent a room and it would have a hot tub and it was like a room, all tiled with a hot tub. And I used to go there with various boyfriends and rent a room for an hour or an hour and a half. And it was amazing, even if we didn't have sex, although we always had sex, but it was just nice to kind of be in a hot tub with someone and be naked together. It was really fun.
And so you can hire those inflatable hot tubs that you can just pick up the front door.
Yeah.
Apparently you shouldn't fill them up in your flat though. They leak. So, but maybe it's not a thing to hire in lockdown if you're living in an apartment.
Probably not. Probably not.
Timberlina said, because we had a question about someone wanting to try anal for the first time and loosen themselves up, and Timberlina suggested you did that in the bath as well.
Oh, well, there you go.
So,
that makes sense.
That might be a way of spicing up your bath time. I mean, I would put some candles on, listen to some nice music, and maybe burn some incense and just relax.
I've been doing a lot of photo shoots in the bath as well recently. Trying to reconstruct sort of iconic historical images like Ophelia or the Merman, different things like that.
Whitney Houston.
Well, that's more my kind.
I often think of Princess Margaret and Whitney Houston when I'm turning the hot tap.
Did Princess Margaret die in a bath as well?
No, but she burned her feet.
Oh. What, badly?
Yeah, quite badly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she had to actually she had to cancel every public engagement for a long time because she's just stepped into a hot bath.
How hot was that bath? I mean,
No, but I just feel like there's tragedy around that story.
it's like stepping into a bath as hot as molten lava. I mean, I like a hot bath, but that's ridiculous. I sat on a radiator once when I was a kid, apparently. I had tram lines across my butt for months.
Did you have to cancel all your?
I had to cancel all my public engagements when I was 5.
Not easy.
I know.
That butt was intimate.
Especially at that age. So there you go. You heard it here first. Steer clear of hot radiators and hot baths. Take a shower. It's safer.
Take a shower. Yeah.
You know, or a hot tub. Obviously, it's going to be a bit more.
If you have access to it, you know, it's not something that's easily accessible, but when it is, always take the opportunity.
Or just candles, nice podcast, low lighting,
good lighting,
essential oils. I would say like just a bath oil or salts are quite nice. I would avoid bubble bath.
Yeah.
I don't see the point myself.
And a dildo.
And a dildo.
Yeah. Great. I'm glad we've sorted all those problems out this episode. David Mills, thank you so much for joining us on our silly little podcast.
Oh, what a treat. It was a real pleasure to be one of the old queens. So I'm thrilled. You know, it's from one old queen to another. I'm you know.
Well, you're welcome back
to be a part of
anytime, and we'd love to be in the same room with you next time, maybe.
Wouldn't that be nice? Hopefully before too long.
Yes. So thank you. Say goodbye, David.
Goodbye, farewell, and stay healthy and sane.
Say goodbye, Tommy. Thank you again for being my cohort in this little endeavor.
Thank you, Bernie. Goodbye.
Goodbye. We'll see you next time on What That Old Queen. Goodbye. You have been listening to What? That Old Queen? Written and presented by Tom Marshman and Bernie Hodges. The show was produced by Bernie Hodges in lockdown 2020 for Hodge Podcasting. If you'd like to sponsor a show, or you'd just like to be a guest, or you have a question for the Old Queens, you can email on hello@thatoldqueen.com or find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.